Okay, sit yourself onto your left, but rather than cross legs, if it's comfortable to do so. If it's not, then sit in cross legs. But sitting in virasana is a really good way to start. So you can come down onto your knees like this, have the knees together, get your thumbs right into the backs of your knees, draw the calves out to the side, and sit back on your. So you're still sitting on the lift. You're not necessarily sitting between the. You're not necessarily sitting on the floor. And then just come into virasana. So virasana is a really good pose for tired legs, as long as it doesn't aggravate your knees. If it's too strong on your knees, you can put a folded blanket in the back of your knees, like this. Just sitting back, just pulling that blanket away as you come back. Get loads of space in the back of your knees. So quite a chunky blanket. Or you just come into pose directly on the lift. So just find your position and draw your shoulders down away from your ears. Lift up into the heart area. One of the other things about virasana is that it makes much easier access into the spine. So it's a good way of just bringing this upward extension of the spine into play, drawing the shoulders down away from your ears, and then bring your hands into namaste. Look down at the floor. Look at something that isn't moving. Focus on long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and exhalations. Drawing the shoulders down away from your ears, lift up into the chest. And then with an exhalation, allow your eyes to gently close. Draw your breath in through your nose and down into the abdomen. Feeling long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and exhalations. Observe how in virasana the spinal extension feels a little freer, and how it's easier to draw your breath down into the abdomen. With an out breath, draw your chin down to meet your chest. Lift your chest up to meet your chin. Draw your shoulders down away from your ears. Just spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere. Holding on onto that feeling of abundance in the heart area. And then gently release the backs of your hands down towards your knees, palms facing upwards, with the thumbs in contact with the index fingers. A gesture of wisdom, of physical intelligence and peacefulness that we can carry into our practice as an intention. Just raise your head and allow your eyes to softly come back. Just release your arms and extend the upper body like you're doing Tadasana. Lifting the heart area to the ceiling and draw the palms out to the sides. Just listen to the breath and then stretch your arms out in front, interlock the fingers and raise your arms over your head. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the right side. So it's a very different type of turn, but try not to turn with your head. Turn with your shoulders and your ribs and your abdomen. So it's a different type of turn to parsva, swastikasana. Come back to the center and then turn to the left. And then come back to the center and release your arms. Swap the interlock of the fingers so the other index finger is on the top of the stack. Raise your arms up and then turn again to the right. Again, try not to turn with the head. Just turn the shoulders and the ribs and the abdomen. So it's more difficult to turn from the abdomen with the arms raised over the head, but just see if you can. Come back to the center and then turn to the left. And then gently come back to the center, release your arms and then come up off your knees and come up into dog down. So turn, have your hands as wide apart as the mat, spread your fingers, spread your palms and turn your toes under, have your feet as wide apart as your mat. Just feel how your legs kind of gently recover and then come up into dog down, keeping your heels high. Work to straighten your legs by tightening the kneecaps, focusing on the kneecaps, pressing the front of the knee through to the back of the knee. Activating the thigh muscles, lifting them up towards the tops of the legs, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards, lifting the seat bones. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to deep inhalations, deep exhalations, hitting the fronts of the thighs through to the backs of the thighs. And then perhaps try and bring your heels a little lower, but keep the shins lifted as you bring your heels down. Try to avoid those little creases appearing between the shin and the foot. As soon as they appear, come back up. Lift the seat bones a little higher. Lift the thighs up into the hip socket. Lift the kneecaps up to the thighs. Lift the shins up to the kneecaps. And then go back down, bringing the heels down a bit lower again. Trying to avoid those creases between the shin and the foot. bringing the heels down, but keeping the legs firmly activated. Okay, step your feet forwards, come up into a standing position. Have blocks for your hands for parsvottanasana. And then bring your feet as wide apart as your mat. Make sure your toes are in line with each other. Bring your hands onto your hips. Feel that your heels are on the edge of the mat. They're touching the edge of the mat. Have a quick look, make sure that they are. Lift up into the chest, keep the back straight, keep the legs dead straight, keep the head lifted. And then come forwards, hinging at the hips. Beyond fingertips, lifting up into the chest. Activate your legs as you were in dog down, tightening those kneecaps, lifting the thighs up into the hip socket. Lifting the kneecaps up into the thighs, lifting the shins up towards the kneecaps. Hit your weight back, hit your legs back so that your weight goes into your heels, and project the chin and the chest forwards. If you can go down lower, then do, but never at the expense of extension. Keep extension the priority. So coming down lower to the floor, you might think, well, that's where the pose should be going, but it only should be going there if the body is ready for it. If you go down into the pose too quickly, then you lose the extension and then you've lost the pose. If you can't extend into the spine, if you can't keep your legs straight, then go back to the blocks. But if you can reach the floor or go to down to the next level and maintain those things, then do so. Never at the expense of extension. Never lose an extension to find the floor. And then bring your hands into your hips and then come up into a standing position. And come into Tadasana. Just be in Tadasana. Feel the inner edge of the feet touching. Big toes touching, your heels touching, and then spread your toes. So spreading the toes doesn't always come naturally. If you spread your fingers, then your toes will work in sympathy. Tighten your kneecaps, hit your shins back so that your weight goes into your heels. Lift the shins out of the ankle sockets. Lift the kneecaps away from the shins, lift the thighs away from the knees, up into the hip socket. Lift from the hips up into the chest like a tube of toothpaste. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Try and lengthen, bring your weight into your heels and then lengthen your toes away from your heels. And again, really spread your fingers so that you can spread your toes, stretch into the little toe side of the foot. Bring your arms out nice and wide in towards your chest and then step or jump your feet apart for trikonasana. Turn your left toes in slightly and the right leg and foot all the way out. So feel that you can spread your toes deeply on both feet. On the back leg, which is this left one, and the right leg, which is the front one. Turn the legs outwards and then come down, find the shin and look up. So when you come down, what happens to the toes? Do you lose them? Spread spread those toes, especially that back leg. It really activates the leg. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Look down. Is your head in line with your foot? Lift the chest if it's not. Squeeze the front leg buttock bone inwards towards the front of the room if your head isn't over your foot. And look back up again. Spread the toes, spread the fingers, especially of that back leg. It's easy to forget that back leg in trikonasana. Reach up, come back to the center, swap the feet around, turn the right toes in, left leg and foot all the way out. Spread in the toes. Spread in the toes and then come over, keeping that back leg really activated in the toes. Just feel where your body is this morning. Feel where there is resistance, where there's freedom. Spread the toes, especially of that back leg, stretching from stamp the big toe into the floor, stretch the little toe away. Do it with both legs. So just like you can bring your attention into your fingers, bring them into your toes. Lift from the feet up into the legs, into the hips, into the spine, into the arms, into the head. And then come back to the center, bring the feet parallel, and then step or jump your feet back together. Come back into Tadasana. So, I want you to deliberately step back with one foot, lift the toes and press the heel into the floor. And then try, as you bring the toes down, try and stretch the toes away from the heels. Really spread the toes. See if you can make space between each of the toes. Bring the other heel in line and then do the same. Stretch the toes away. Really see if you can spread them and then lift up into the chest. Feel that you can wake up your feet by stretching them. And then do it the other way around. Have the ball joint of the foot onto the floor and really spread the toes. Try and splay the toes outwards. Try and get this little toe to stretch as far away as you can. Even if maybe sometimes it's useful just to kind of get hold of that little toe and move it away. Then come forwards with the other leg and then try and stretch the heel away from the toes as you bring the foot down. Do the same with the other leg, so you can use something to help you to balance if you need to. Splay out the toes beyond the ball joint of the foot and then stretch the heels away from the toes. So we wake up the feet, spread the fingers, spread the palms, lift out of those big kind of flipper feet. Turn the fronts of the shins inwards, the fronts of the thighs inwards, tuck the tailbone in, draw the abdomen to the spine. Lift up into the heart area. Breathe. Turning the fronts of the legs in. See if you can keep the toes stretching away from the heels. The heels stretching away from the toes. It's harder to do that when you're in Tadasana. It's easier to stretch from the heels into the toes, mainly because we bring our weight into our heels. So breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Stretch the palms forwards, spread the toe, interlock the fingers, turn the palms all the way out, and then I need to move just for ceiling height, and then come into urdhva baddangulyasana. Hitting the legs back, spreading the toes, stretching the toes consciously away from the heels. Release your arms. Swap the interlock of the fingers, turn the palms, raise your arms up. Just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Spread the palms like we're spreading the toes over your head. And then release your hands, coming back into Tadasana. Okay, and then bring a couple of blocks to the right side of your mat, on the high end like that, and then we will just come back into Tadasana. So again, coming into Tadasana, stretching the toes away from the heels. Feels like you'll go up a size, a foot, shoe size. Don't worry, your feet will kind of, won't, you know, obviously they will go back to their normal size. You won't have to buy new shoes. Lift up into the chest. Spread the feet. Bring your arms out nice and wide in towards the chest, and then step or jump your feet nice and wide. And then turn your left toes in steeply. So more steeply than for trikonasana. And then rotate on the right foot. And then swing this back leg hip forward. Pick up the heel of that back leg, turn it all the way out, and then bring the heel down onto the floor. So with that back foot, splay the toes. Press the ball joint of the foot into the floor, and then stretch into the heel of that back foot. Do the same with the front foot, but stretching from the heel into the toes. Turn this this back leg, turn it inwards, so that the backs of the thighs turn outwards, so that the hips are level. And then come over and reach down and find the blocks. So before we come all the way down to the floor, just find the blocks. Keep stretching, just keep pressing the ball joint of the back foot into the floor, stretching the heel away from that back foot, keeping the kneecap tightened, keeping the fronts of the thighs turning inwards. Lift the chest, extend the spine away. Then if you can come down lower, but again, never at the expense of extension. Keep stretching the heel, the toes of this front leg away from the heel. If you can come down to the floor, then do. Just stay on the fingertips. Keep stretching the heel away from the toes of that back foot. Extending the spine away. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, keeping that back foot stretching. If you can start walking your hands towards the back leg, but keeping the toes spread, keeping that back heel stretching away from the toes, keeping the toes stretching away from the heel in the front leg, keeping the feet really splayed. Okay, and then come back, bring your hands back underneath your shoulders, bend that front leg, step forwards with the back leg, get hold of the blocks and come up into Tadasana. Just put the blocks on the other side and come back into Tadasana. Again, stretch the heels away from the toes, really spreading the toes. Lift it up into the chest. Arms out nice and wide into the chest, and then step or jump your feet nice and wide. And then turn the right toes in, the left leg and foot all the way out. Pick up the back heel, turn it out, and then just have the heel lifted for a moment. Splay the little toes away from the big toes so that the ball joint of the foot is pressing onto the floor, and then stretch the heel away of that back leg. Pick up the toes of the front foot and then press the heel into the floor and stretch toes away from the heel, really spreading into the toes. Turn the fronts of the thighs inwards, have the heels in line with each other. Bring the hips level. And then come forward, keeping those toes like flippers. So feel like your feet have grown a little. Push the shin of that back leg away from the toes. Turn the fronts of the thighs inwards, project into the chest. Keep the toes stretching away from the heel and the heels stretching away from the toes. If you can go down lower, then do. Just feel that, observe that the feeling perhaps feels different on this side than on the other. Keep spreading the toes, spreading the feet, extending into the spine. If you can reach the floor, then do, but at the same time acknowledging that the pose feels different on this side than on the other. Today, for some reason, my hips feel uneven on this side, so I've got to really concentrate on the turning of the legs, finding that levelness in the hips. Stretching the toes away from the heel in that front leg, stretching the heel away from the toes in that back leg. And then if you can, walk your hands towards the back of towards the back leg. I'm just going to stay a bit higher this time, just so that I can really concentrate on the levelness of the hips. It doesn't feel as easy on this side for some reason. Okay, and then bend the front leg, step forwards, come up into standing position, and then come into Tadasana. Feel how as you come into Tadasana, there's an immediate upward action with your energy, shooting from the feet into the hips, into the chest, into the arms. Okay, and then come down onto your knees for trikonasana, not trikonasana, for adho svanasana. Have the hands shoulder width apart. So dog down, step back with the feet, have the feet hip width apart, and then come back up into dog down. Again, spreading the toe mounds. Pressing the toe mounds into the floor and consciously lengthening the heels away from the toes, tightening the kneecaps, hitting the fronts of the thighs through to the backs of the thighs. Turning the fronts of the thighs inwards, broadening the backs of the thighs outwards. Just like you're stretching your feet, stretch your fingers away from the heels of the hand, stretch the little finger away from the thumb. Stretch into each individual finger. The fingers at the hands are a little easier to activate in this way, perhaps, or maybe not. Okay, and then come down onto the tops of your feet and sit back in virasana. Observe how your energy has changed. Just listening to the breath. And then come forward into adho virasana, keeping the seat bones back on the heels. And then stretching the arms away. And then bring your hands underneath your shoulders and push yourself back up into a seated position again, just observing the energy you have released. Just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. Okay, get a folded blanket and a couple of blocks. So actually unfold it one level like that, so it's not the kind of big one, and then put the blocks onto the lift. And then I want you to sit with your legs out in front. So you need to sit with the edge of the blanket really quite close, about 6 inches away from the edge of the blanket. So put the blocks on the end of the blanket so it's about 6 inches away. And then lift up into the chest. Come into Dandasana. Again, can you spread the toes so you can have the inner edge of the feet together and try and spread those toe mounds. Lengthen the toes up away from the heels. Tighten the kneecaps, lift up into the chest. Draw the lower lumbar in towards the front chest. And then bend your knee and then bring your heels onto the edge of the blanket for Marichyasana. No, not Marichyasana, malasana. So your heels are just perched upon the on top of the black blanket. So not everyone needs that lift underneath the heel, but we're going to use that for today. And then press the heel into the blanket and then stretch into the toes, spread in the toes. Hold onto your knees and then bring the abdomen through the legs, lifting up into the chest, lifting the heart area up to the ceiling. And then raise up your arms and then come forwards. With the blanket underneath your heels, then it's probably easier to lift. But then bring your weight back into your heels, stretch into the toes, spread into the fingers, lift up into the chest. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, stretching the chest forwards. Just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, lifting the chest, drawing your shoulders away from your ears, lengthening, turning the tailbone in, lifting the abdomen to the diaphragm, to the collarbone, to the chin. Coming forwards between the legs, reaching forwards, turning the tailbone in, hitting back. And then just gently come back to the center. Just hold onto your knees. So having that blanket underneath your heels might feel a bit weird, especially if you usually do the pose with your, without the blanket. If you want to go back to doing it without the blanket, just lift the blanket away and bring your heels down onto the floor. But your heels still need to be close to the body. Spread the toes, lift up into the chest, elevate the heart area upwards, lifting the abdomen all the way up to the diaphragm, to the collarbone. Raise up and then come forwards. So if you're doing it without the blanket underneath, just feel what the difference is in the feet. It's a little harder in some ways to bring your weight into your heels. So hit the seat bones back without just sitting back down. Keep the shoulders away from your ears. I really hunch badly in this pose. So hunch my shoulders to my ears, so I've got to really lengthen them. Come forwards, hinging at the hips, turning the tailbone in. Okay, and then gently release and stretch your legs out in front. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to And then bring yourself into swastikasana again. You just lift the blanket a little so that you can bring the legs as close into the body as you can, but stay in lifting on the blocks with the blanket underneath. Lift up into the chest. Just observing the energy of the physical body. Just finding your balance. So lifting up into the chest and then turn to the right side, digging the back hand into the floor, keeping the seat bones level. As you turn the abdomen, the ribs, the shoulders, keep the neck passive. Just look forwards. And then come back to the center. Hold onto your knees, lift up into your chest. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the right side. And then gently come back to the center. Just come off your lift and just move everything out of the way. And come down into supta, baddangulyasana. Have the soles of the feet together and the knees apart. And then just bring yourself back down onto the floor. Push the heels consciously together. Lengthen the toes away from the heels. So if you let your feet just go kind of passive, completely passive, then the legs become quite passive. As soon as you hit the heels together, you feel this compactness in the hips. Of course, if this is uncomfortable in your hips, put blocks on the outsides of your thighs. Press the heels really firmly together and then consciously lengthen the toes away from the heels. Have the big toes together, have the insteps drawing apart. Lengthen from the heels into the little toes. Keep the feet really active. Stretch up, spread the fingers, and then hook the thumbs together like you're doing a little butterfly silhouette. And then try and splay the hands away as you bring your arms down onto the floor. If there's stiffness in your shoulders, put blocks or a folded blanket underneath your hand. Keep the feet really firmly pressing together. Keeping the heels pressing together, lengthening from the heels into the toes. Easier said than done, isn't it? But see if you can activate the feet. Lengthening into the hands, lengthening into the arms. So when you concentrate on your feet, what happens to the hands? When you concentrate on your hands, what happens to the feet? Try and bring levelness to your attention. Swap the interlock of the thumb. Keep the fingers spread, but just feel that when you kind of interlock the thumb differently, it does change in the shoulders. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. release your arms, just rest your hands on your lower ribs. Let the knees fall apart. Just let the feet relax. Just observe your breath. Feel the energy in the spine, in the ribs, in the arms, in the legs. Feeling like your energy radiates from your bones and into the muscles. And into your organs. And then bring your knees together, have your knees together and your feet apart, just rest in your back in the opposite direction. And then pull your knees in towards your chest. Have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom. And if you've got a bolster handy, just grab the bolster, bring the feet close to the seat bones, lift the seat bones and bring the lower back onto the bolster. Gather your shoulder blades together so you come right onto the tops of your shoulders, so you lift your chest. Hold onto the bolster, bend your knees and then stretch your legs up to the ceiling. Again, spread your toes. If you spread your fingers, it becomes easier. Just have the palms facing upwards, pressing your arms into the floor at the sides of the body. Spread the toes, turn the fronts of the legs inwards like you're doing tadasana. Lengthen the toes away from the heels. Try and keep the feet flat, so not kind of the little fingers, the little toe side isn't higher to the ceiling than the big toe side. Try and keep the toes level. Spread in the toes. Pushing the heels away from the seat bones. Pressing the arms into the floor so that you lift up into the chest. Just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. Consciously filling your lungs from the bottom to the top. Emptying them from the top to the bottom. Okay, and then bend your knees. Just keep the bolster underneath you, bring your feet onto the floor. Keep pushing, keep the arms straight, palms facing upwards, pressing the forearms firmly into the floor to keep the chest lifted. Just stay with the bolster underneath you for a moment or two. And then relax. And then roll the bolster away. Bring it onto, initially bring it underneath your legs. But we've worked really hard in the legs because we've worked really hard in the feet. So bring the bolster on top of your thighs. Have a folded blanket for underneath your head. It's coming up onto your elbows. Draw yourself down in a really good straight line. Have the folded blanket underneath the back of your head, the back of your neck. And then allow your body to release. So the bolster is sitting on top of your thighs. Just letting the legs relax. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Letting the body completely surrender into the floor, unhooking the arm and the leg muscles. Allowing the physical body to become heavy on the floor. Observe that sensation of physical lightness that radiates from the bones and into the muscles. Radiating from the calf bones, from the shin bones into the calf muscles. From the bones in the feet into the muscles of the feet. From the thigh bone into the thigh muscles. Up into the chest, radiating from, into the waist, radiating from the pelvis. Into the organs, from the spine and into the organs and into the muscles. From the rib cage into the muscles and into the organs. Into the shoulders and into the upper arms and into the forearms and into the hands and the fingers and the toes and the fingertips. That positive energy radiating from the muscles and into the bones, from the bones and into the muscles. And follow the spine into the neck, radiating out into the throat, to the muscles around the neck and into the head. Positive energy radiating from the skull and into the head, into the face, into the brain. Surrendering into the floor, feeling that energy radiating from the skeleton into the muscles, into the organs. Just bask in that feeling of energetic lightness. ready to disturb yourself, just wriggle your toes, wriggle your fingers. Just remove the bolster from on top of your legs and then draw your knees into the chest. Have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom. And then gently roll over onto your right side. Stay down on your right side. And then stretch out the top leg, come back up into a seated position. Just sitting in cross legs. With your hands in the masti, a final spinal lift. Draw your breath in through your nose and down into the abdomen. Be conscious of the energy that you've released through your practice. A good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy that the extensions and the forward bends and the twists and the inversions bring to the body and to the mind. And then draw your chin forwards and down to make contact with your chest. Lifting your chest to make contact with your chin. Just spend a moment to acknowledge the positive energy you have created around the heart area. And then send some of that positive energy out into the world. To people and places and things that need our positive energy. And then release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards. Have the tip of the index finger together with the tips of the thumbs. Just a gesture of wisdom, physical intelligence and peacefulness that we can carry with us into our day. And then raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. Thank you. So hopefully you feel that you have really lifted your energy. You've given your legs a really good stretch and some good energy to put into your day. So thank you very much for joining me.